Hello, it's 1 o'clock, so I'm just going to start. My name is Kristine. This is the gamification session. Thank you all for coming. I am a game programmer student at NTNU, and I'm also working with Games for Health Norway, together with ICT Norway, and Games for Health Europe, which is the initiator. So I'm not going to say that much about myself, because you're here to listen to our speakers. And our first up is Jurriaan from Games for Health Europe, and he will talk to you about behavioral change by playing.
Thank you, organization, for inviting me and giving me the chance to present the work we do. And thank you for joining this session. I will talk about how we work with games and change people's behavior with games by play, and how we change systems and organizations with that. So I'll take you through it, through examples and our work and the vision we have on games. We are a foundation, since it is a hobby project, basically, that totally went out of hand. Besides the venue we have, this is a foundation. We thought it's interesting to see what we can do in healthcare and improve healthcare with games. The foundation has 3 goals. The first goal is organize a conference every year. 2 weeks ago we had the sixth edition. The second goal is to create a community of people. Now we have 30,000 people globally, all healthcare professionals, developers, people who likes us. And we invest in the development of games. We have produced over 800 games. More than 100 have been clinically trialed. 2 games has been classified as a medicine, so that's interesting. First phase you have to do is animal testing. So can you imagine? The FDA didn't have a protocol on that, so it was quite an interesting phase. So, and I am very glad that Norway sees the chances there are with games and to improve healthcare, make it more affordable and more fun. So Nart and Kristine, thank you for that. The vision we have on games is that games are initiating play. And play is a language. When we are born, we can't speak, but we are able to play. So we see play as a natural language. And by playing, we learn. Who in this room learned how to cycle by reading a book? I guess no one. We learned cycling by making mistakes, trying and over again, and then we managed. So how come that we think that if we provide people with information on paper or on digital screens, that they learn something from it? We don't think so. And that's where games come in. Games are a safe environment in where we can let people make mistakes, and with it they learn, even languages. And we approach everything as a game that is bad designed. For us, a hospital is a game that is bad designed. A therapy is a game that is bad designed. The fact that you have a waiting room in a hospital tells me something about your process. It's suboptimal. And then you can introduce technology, and then you probably will end up with an empty waiting room if the technology works. But that's not our cup of tea. We would like to design a hospital, even if we are going to design a hospital without a waiting room. How would that be? So for us, the entire world, as we approach this, is a game that is bad designed. Even, and especially if you look it through Windows. You see it through Windows. What can games do? Games can save lives. This is an example of a killer app that saved lives. From the idea, this is a simple question. We have various teams all over the Netherlands working in hospitals with with the scientists, with the general practitioners, but also with the professionals, with the nurses, and with the patients to come up with prototypes to see if it works. And one question was, can you quickly make a map where we can find these machines to save people's lives? You know these machines? I can't pronounce it. It's automatic defibrillator. I can't pronounce it. There was some, so we said, oh, of course, we can make it. It's quite easy. So we called the guys who installed these machines, and they said, you're not going to give this information. And we thought, why not? Well, they said it's commercially sensitive information. Okay, so you're a company that produces machines that saves people's lives, but you're not willing to share the data to save people's lives? Yes, that's correct. Okay, then we said we're going to do it differently. So we created a game, very simple game, 5 years back. I think it was the first version of Pokemon Go. And we asked patients and employees of the hospital to starting catching AEDs with their phones. And we created a game around it. The AEDs turned into monsters if you saw them on your phone. And there were AEDs. The game was who can find the most AEDs, who can find the highest, who can find the golden, who can find the first, etc., etc. And there were people who didn't want to catch these machines, but to verify it. They want to verify it. So we have two classes. One class that was hunting and one class that was verifying. And the rule we applied on the database is if an AED is catched 20 times and it is verified 20 times, we put it into the database because we might assume then that it's there. So, and people start liking it and they understood the appeal we had. Can you help us because we're not giving the data by these organizations. So everybody thought it was stupid. And people loved it, and they took it home. They took it to the football club, they took it to their families, they took it to holidays. And without knowing, we built the largest database on Earth on daily verified IEDs. In the Netherlands, only 220,000 people play this game every day. This project probably costed less than 10,000 euros. And it started to become very scary because we, based on this data set, we built the app with the panic button to find the nearest IED. And we got testimonials from people, thanks to your app, I was able to save the life of my dad, friend, blah, blah, blah. And then we thought, oh my God. So we handed this data set over to the International Red Cross, which is now taking care of it. And we even now know that there is an AED on the South Pole, which is quite interesting. And funny thing is that the organizations who were not willing to give this data use this data set now to find the locations where no machines are installed yet. So it's a commercial instrument for them. You can install it. This is not a game. I love it. It's already an old project, but it's still running strong. It's called Foldit, fold.it if you want to play it. Problem here was there was an HIV protein found by scientists at Washington University, but to make it function as a medicine, medication, it had to be folded. But it was so complex protein that people weren't, the scientists for 10 years weren't able to find the way to fold it, even not with supercomputers. So an abstract puzzle of the proteins was made, and it was given to a large group of gamers. Guys, here's a very interesting puzzle. We know it can be folded, but not how, so please go ahead. And within 6 weeks, 10,000 gamers folded this protein. And the research got published in Nature. So 3 articles already are in Nature about this research. And lots of pharmaceuticals now and lots of research centers all over the globe use this instrument to let gamers fold this puzzle. And there's a funny thing about it. If you take a look at the the writers of the article, all the Foldit players were mentioned. So the paper version of Nature had to become with an extra printed appendix to mention 10,000 gamers as a co-author. So, and if you take a look at PubMed, which is a database for articles, and you type in players F, it actually is a person, which is of course not. So that was our life hack. Another interesting project by a friend of us, Amy Robinson, was a question from a neuroscientist from MIT. This project already is migrated to Princeton now, to build a 3D model of a cubic millimeter of brain tissue. To do that, they sliced the cubic millimeter of brain tissue in 4 microns, scanned it, put algorithms on it, but the algorithms make mistakes. And since it are so much scans and so much neuron paths, people were asked, can you help us to find these paths? So there are now 150,000 gamers globally every day helping a group of 50 neuroscientists at Princeton to build this 3D model of the brain in the form of a game. There are hundreds of leaderboards who solve the best, who solve the most, people communicating with each other. So as an entire group of people willing to help science because they think and they believe it's for purpose and they love to play, and people who play together are able to solve complex problems. This is another game for the Alzheimer research, and this is what we call citizen science. So there's loads of games right now where you can ask gamers or people who want to play to solve your problem. More than 100 RCTs has been carried out with the games. So if you're interested in, please send me an email afterwards or look them up at PubMed. This is a digital vacuum cleaner we built for people to scan their medication. It is automatically connected to the database of registered medication. And people simply have in their phone a list of the medication they use. Of course, this got researched as well and published a couple of weeks back in the British Medical Journal. The designs we make should not always that difficult or that complex. This is a solution for Children's Hospital in London. No money, but wanted to make the kids happy because then they recover faster. For 15 euros, 2 Spider-Man suits for the window washers, and the kids got stuck to the window. Whoa, superheroes washing the windows. This won't last for longer than a week, so you can come up with new designs. You can introduce Superman, Batman, SpongeBob even. You can do all things inside the hospital. So that's basically how we search for how can we design interventions for people that change the behavior positively. And this is an example of a project where people who normally cross the street with red lights, I see it all over Oslo, nobody's waiting for the red light. So can we design an intervention where people are willing to wait and other people's helping those people with waiting? Please start the video.
Born to live their lives. I'm born to dance. Want me to work like a dog in a full-time job? Haha, I'm born to dance. Don't wear no coat, no tie, no shirt, and even no pants. I'm born to dance. You shaking your head? Well, I'll be shaking my ass, cause I'm born to dance. I wanna shake it and shake it and shake it, shake it and shake it, girl. Do you wanna shake it? I wanna shake it and shake it and shake it, shake it and shake it, yo. Watch me dance now.
interesting intervention, I think. So we all believe that we learn by doing things. Funny thing is that we focus on learning instead of doing. That is quite strange, I think. So if you want more learning, you should more doing. So get rid of e-health and e-learning. Instead, let's use e-doing. So that's what I would like to. And I heard yesterday also e-designing things or doing things. Because play is a language. Remember that, please. And we know it before we can even talk. And with that, we learn in a very safe environment. Another examples. Project with Skype. Can you make happy buildings? Skype is a productivity company. Asked us, can you come up with designs for happy buildings? I thought, wow, that's great. So one of the designers came up with a high five hall, where if you meet people, you have to give each other a high five. You can do it tomorrow. We played with water coolers. Everybody has to drink 2 liters of water. Nobody's doing it. So we gave water coolers a feeling with sounds and lights. So when it wasn't used, it became dark and sober, and people thought, oh, the water cooler is not happy. I'm going to tap some water, and then the water cooler became happy, and everybody was happy. And they drank the water. So that was our discovery, that you can disconnect motivation and goal. And that's very important. So because we thought, wow, if motivation and goal is not connected, we as designers can come up with anything, because we already understood that people didn't want to stop smoking, didn't want to live a healthier life, etc., etc., etc. People have other motivations. So if you can come up with a design where people have a motivation for, and the result is you as a pediatrician or whatever want them to have a healthier life, you can combine the two. So that was quite great. And yes, we have to take the stairs. We don't do it. We wait for the elevator, and then ping, the stairs apply. So there's all kinds of designs you can come up with to change people's behavior, and that's very simple. And of course, this project also got researched because we have to prove all over the time, hundreds of millions of times, we have to prove that it works. No one ever in this room has, or no one ever on earth has proven that reading a book works. But we have to prove all over and over time that gaming works, which we do. And with that, we change systems. And even it was only for this reason. This is a British psychologist who measured the brain activity of youngsters during a week, and he found out that they're nearly brain dead when in class. So if you take a look at their brain activity, doing your homework generates more brain activity. So can you imagine why? Because school is focusing on learning instead of doing. So I think if we start introducing e-doing, creating games where people by making mistakes learn, I think that will become more effectively. And in healthcare, we see a shift from illnesses with a step towards health, and then a step towards happiness. In the end, I think it's about happiness. So we're focusing on happiness. We also see a shift. My presentation is online, so don't worry. You can have it later on. It's on the app already. We see a shift from the subsidized patients toward the insured customer. That's interesting. Nobody wants to pay for healthcare, but we want to pay for health. And that's interesting, because then the money people have ready and available to spend besides the things they have to pay for, increases. So people are willing to pay for health, and people are willing to pay for happiness. That's very interesting. And we see a shift from demands to desires. This is not a form of transport, this is adventure. And that's a shift we see on micro level in the economies. Our economies are shifting towards a purpose economy, and that's very important, because you as organizations have to ask yourself, within 5 years we are entering the purpose economy, and what does that mean for me? So people will ask you, what impact do you have as an organization, not how much profit you make, as they do now. So shifting from profit to impact is quite a thing within 5 years from now. And you have to put happiness before profit. So, and you already start thinking about it right now, because 5 years from now is very soon. but we see this shift happening. And yeah, we've seen movies around it, and I'm almost done, Kristine. I will show you. I would like to share a short fragment of a documentary by Dutch television, who interviewed an economist, Richard Leyer, who talks about the science of happiness.
Betekenisvolle ondernemers beginnen niet met een business idee, maar met een maatschappelijk probleem.
Waar
ze zich betrokken bij voelen en wat ze op willen lossen. En daar verzinnen ze een bedrijf bij.
Can you go back and click on the link? Ja.
Hij is hoogleraar aan de London School of Economics.
This is a worldwide phenomenon, of course. That's what you might call, people sometimes don't like to use the word happiness, they use the word well-being, but there is a well-being movement worldwide based on two things, I think. One is some disillusion with the fruits of economic growth. We thought 50 years ago that if we all became richer, we should all become happier. That, in fact, didn't happen. People didn't feel that was happening. But the other, I think, is that we have a new science of happiness, and people realize that actually you could discuss it. You could discuss how could we have a happier society. If you think in the context of happiness, you get a rather different perspective on many questions. And I think it's one that will lead to a happier world.
So, for that reason, we are focusing on happiness now, and we're trying to build games that contribute to happiness of people. Please go back to the Prezi. Thank you. And think of this. What will happen with your company if you put happiness before profit? We're not going to build the Ubers because we think that's creative destruction. No cab driver wants an Uber. So in healthcare, we're not going to implement technology that destroys the business of healthcare professionals. We're not going to do it. We want to empower them. That's what we call creative construction, because we think with all the knowledge that's there, we might benefit from it and we learn from it to improve healthcare. So, and our aim is to reach 1 million people in 5 years from now with the games we have. We reached 180 million in the last 20 years. Due to the fact that technology grow exponential, we said, okay, we going through the valley of disillusion, and then we can reach the tipping point where we can have an exponential growth, which makes it possible to reach 1 billion people for the next 5 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jurriaan.
23 minutes.
You had 23 minutes, yes. Does anyone have any quick question for Jurriaan? I know he loves questions. No one?
I love discussion, so I said to Nord. Yeah. Well, you can't design a game that works for everybody. I'm also thinking of placebo games. How nice would it be for doing research? How will a placebo game looks like? I think it's a deadly boring book or something. But it doesn't matter. People are intrinsically motivated for play. So if I need to build a game for a high-skilled professional, I probably need to come up with a different game than if it's for a young person of 2 years old or an elderly of 80. So I have to build a different game. That's true. Yeah. So you can't build one game that fits everybody.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I thought you had a question.
I do have a question, but we're a little bit short on time.
No, and I think, well, may I end up saying that
I'll
I
say
think
the
there's a
very quick
huge
question.
opportunity for Norway because you guys stopped drilling in oil and now you started drilling in healthcare, and I think you will be very successful with that. So, and I think that combination, in combination with these the innovation savvy you all are, I think this is a very interesting country.
I think so too. Thank you. Our next speaker is Maria from Superplus. Superplus is a startup company that develops communication and learning tools for non-verbal children.
I'm try to do this the right way. Good?
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I'm trying to do a simultaneous thing here. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Maria. I'm the product manager of Superplus. Superplus is a Norwegian-based startup company that makes digital tools for children with special needs, non-verbal children. Our team consists of practitioners from special education, game design and technology, behavioral sciences, and marketing. But we also have a background as a parent for a girl with special needs. I'm here to talk about our product, Superspeak, which is what we like to call it, the most progressive play-to-learn communication app on the market. I'll give you a sneak peek of it and how it enables nonverbal children to communicate with their surroundings. I'll also say something about why I believe the use of game and elements are enabling these children to become better communicators and also more independent learners. Meet Elias. Elias, he's a boy with autism. He was diagnosed at the age of 2. His family also recently found out that he has an intellectual disability. This means that Elias is affected in the most areas of development, including his lack of verbal language. And now, at the age of 6, he barely utters any words except for the words that he's made out of his own sounds. Now, imagine his frustration. Imagine his frustration not being able to communicate then when he's hurting, he's hungry, or even aching to boast out something cool that he's done. Also, imagine his family's frustration, who desperately want to understand him. Elias is only one of millions of children who is in the area of special needs. And I think in the United States, it's about 6.5 million children with special needs. So this is a huge market. Now, what you see here is some of the current communication solutions. The ones on the top there are called PEX flashcards. They have to be printed, cut, and laminated. They do serve a practical use, but this means that for each new word the child learns, he has to carry it around as, you can imagine when his vocabulary is growing, this starts to become really big. The photo at the bottom there is a type of a proprietary hardware. These devices are also still in use, and they were attempted to bring the alternative communication area to a bit forward than the flashcards. They are heavy, not so customizable, expensive, and very much stigmatizing. So, what about new technology? What about apps? The growth of tablet and mobile applications are revolutionary for these kids. However, I think the current applications are a bit too complicated for both the children, parents, and even the professionals we've been talking to. We've got some comments that they're putting the analog solution into a digital and not really exploring what the technology is possible to do. We hear that they have problems administering them and they struggle to get their kids to adopt them. As you can see, some of the tools are based on abstract symbols, even text, and this is for children who's not possible to understand these type of visuals. And most importantly, there's no motivational elements here at all. So what I would say is that it's a clear gap here between the user's needs and what should be expected and the current solutions offered. To give you a little idea of Superspeak, I'll just show you a quick video of Elias and how he is using it. Not so quick. No sound. Yeah. Oh no. That's my notes. Yep. I can do it. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Elias en sprudlende seksåring, men han litt forskjellig fra andre seksåringer. Han har ikke språk.
Han har store utfordringer når det kommer til kommunikasjon. Han trenger tett oppfølging og gode rammer og struktur rundt seg.
Det første, i hvert fall min tanke var når jeg så Superspeak, var at dette genialt.
Det som praktisk med Superspeak at det på alle enheter i huset.
Hvis det legges inn noe nytt, så oppdaterer den seg umiddelbart på alle enheter.
Hva vil du?
Sykkel. Skal du ut og sykle, Elias? Bra!
De barna som ikke har et verbalt språk, de trenger en måte å kommunisere på.
Hva vil du ha på?
Superspeak jo et veldig håndterlig verktøy i forhold til det veldig mange andre kommunikasjonshjelpemidler har vært. Fordelen med det jo at han har veldig tydelige valg. Han blir forstått, og vi forstår.
Det som fint at Superspeak delt opp i to deler, en play-del og en AC-del. I AC-delen så det jo hverdagen som går på det han ber om i løpet av dagen, alt fra pålegg til aktiviteter han vil gjøre, steder han vil gå. I play-delen så jobber man med ferdigheter som man ellers, og vi har jobbet med i barnehagen, hjemme og på skolen, så man kan legge inn der. Pek på blå. Flott, Elias.
Dette vel det første verktøyet som han har vist interesse for.
Men vi ser når han sitter og jobber enten i play eller skal ta valg, så viser han en konsentrasjon, at han en del i nuet på det, viser interesse og mestring.
Vi ser at Elias både gjør seg mer forstått og lærer mye av å bruke Superspeak.
Men ser at han forstår det, og det har vært det mest spennende i det hele, at han ser en nytteverdi.
Okay, we really like Elias. He's so fun. And we're very happy to have a family that's speaking so warm of us as well. Besides being practitioners and also having one of the co-founders with a girl with autism, we have since the beginning partnered up with children, parents and teachers in finding what their problems and needs are. Through the philosophies of being user-driven and pushing the user experience into the front seat, our focus has been to make a tool that's practical and easy to use, but also playful. Not only for the child, but also for the parents. I'm not going to go into details about the features and the functions, but I'll tell you some about the new and the playful ways we've found to teach and learn communication for these kiddos. As we saw in the beginning slides, many of the current tools contains a lot of complex abstract information and no motivational elements. This is not only affecting the child, but also the grown-up. And I would say this is really bad news because they are the key to unlock communication for our children. We wanted to make Superspeak a simple and fun tool to use, so some of the game elements are there in order to optimize these children's potential, to grow their skills beyond the current level, which is possible. But we also use the elements to engage the parents and to pick up the app and use it on a regular basis. So what you see here is some of the elements we've used for the grown-ups. We've implemented both design interface patterns, such as the visual indications of achievements and learner progress. But also in the play portion of the app, we're now working on how we can give more educational info to the parents about the kids, because we've heard that a lot of these parents or the professionals trigger to know that their learner is actually progressing. So it's going to be more of an educational part of the app as well. Other game elements we have used are mechanisms that the user is directly interacting with. So what we believe is that games has the potential to unite effective instruction with fun. As you heard Elias's mother saying, the games that he was playing are targeted towards important functional skills. We could see that he was practicing visual and auditive attention, and these, among other skills, are seen as crucial to develop language and concept comprehension at the later stage in life. In Superspeak, we made it possible to practice skills more frequently, with easy access and in more playful visual ways than they are done in therapy sessions or at school or at kindergarten. One particular element that I want to highlight is the token economy system. Is anyone familiar with it? Okay. The basic principle here is that the child earns a token for each desirable behavior or target skill that we want the kid to do. These tokens, they function as symbol that you can trade something else for. I think that an example that is known for all of us are money. Coins are a type of a token which serve the same purpose. So when using the tokens in Superspeak, the child can exchange these to get access to specific activities, items, or privileges that we know that the child really enjoys and loves doing. So, for example, the tokens that Elias is collecting are puzzle pieces of a kite. And when the whole puzzle piece is collected, he then trades this with kite running. I'm going to show you a short clip of Elias working for tokens. Unfortunately, we don't have the vision of, or we're not showing the puzzle pieces, but just watch his face and see how he reacts, and you'll see he gets a bit more excited. And also pay attention to his face at the end here.
Pek på mamma.
Min.
Pek på pappa. Pek på Elise.
Ja.
Pek på bestefar.
Ja.
Really cute. Okay, so the use of game elements are not only about having fun, but it's also about taking advantage of the possibility of what it can give us along with technology. One of the most distinguishing characteristics of these kids, especially those with an autism diagnosis, is that they learn in a different way than children with normal development. Also, some of these children do not enjoy social interaction or play as typically developing children do. They can be very selective and sensitive to both tone of voice, facial mimics, or how instructions are given. So, teaching in a consistent and a controlled learning environment can be of great value for Elias and others with similar diagnosis, as we are able in a much easier way to provide for proven teaching strategies that ensure success. From a learning and health perspective, the use of game elements are a perfect match for children with special needs. Games provides frequent opportunities to respond, variations, it delivers feedback instantly, and requires some form of mastery before proceeding to the next level. So, if looking at a successful game as a set of arrangements that is implicitly asking its player to behave in certain ways, then knowledge of these underlying mechanisms, which evoke and maintain game-playing behavior, should be of big interests to health professionals, educators, politicians, and anyone interested in learning and behavior change. My point is that good game design, meaning good teaching, supports players towards a win. Enabling these children to master and learn communication skills will therefore give them a key to grow rewarding personal relationships with grown-ups, but also enhance their own well-being. That was all. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
That was very interesting. Does anyone have any questions for her? We have a few minutes if there's any questions. You have questions.
Yes. Thank you very much. I have two questions. One is, how were these kids involved in the design process?
That's a good question because these kids aren't that verbal. So the persons that we use the most are the parents, and they give us indications on what they trigger on. So we can see their reactions on what's fun for them and just play on that and use that. So as you saw on the token system, they play for items or activities that we know they enjoy doing. So that's one way of getting an indication of what game elements that's working on them. I don't know if that answered.
Yeah, pretty much. The other question I had is, often games are used as broccoli with chocolate sauce. Something that is intrinsically negative, you cover it with chocolate sauce and it looks nice, but it's horrible to eat. There's a risk in this game for that as well. That you're going to trying to persuade to do kids, let them do stuff that they actually don't want to do, but because you reward them with tokens, they simply do it. So how do you find the balance for that risk?
There is a big ethical issue here. Like no matter what kind of gamification you use, and especially for these children because they can't advocate for themselves. So we're really dependent on using health professionals that has good ethics. We also, as game designers, has to provide a learning environment that's suitable for them. And I think as a background, as a company that we've been working with these children. We understand some of their needs, and we also have a parent on board that's with autism. But of course, there's a huge ethical problem of using rewards. But I think harnessing it in a way that's positive, it's much better to know like the responsibility of games, the power of games, instead of just closing your eyes and be ignorant of it. So I don't know. It's always an issue, an ethical issue.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to go over to our next speaker then, which is Truls from Sunnaas Hospital. They have been working with game technology for a very long time. And he's going to talk to you about using game technology and video games in the rehabilitation of neurological disorders. So, go ahead.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. I'm here to tell you about some examples that this was really bright, that we use on how we use games in our rehabilitation process of our patients with neurological diseases. I work at Sunnaas Rehabilitation Hospital, so I'll just use a few words on who I am. That's me, the happy gamer right there with the HTC Vive goggles on me, trying out a virtual world called the lab. It's really, really cool. I work at the virtual rehabilitation lab at Sunnaas, where we use both commercial video games and specialized video games in rehabilitation, and I'm also a huge Super Mario fan. A few words about Sunnaas. We are the largest rehabilitation hospital in Norway. We offer multidisciplinary rehabilitation to patients that has had a complex injury or illness. We have a few main patient groups. We treat traumatic brain injury, we treat stroke, spinal cord injury, burn victims, multi-trauma, and we also have our own unit for children. We're also very proud to have the largest research and innovation staff in Norway within rehabilitation. It's very important to be precise there. And we're the only hospital in Norway that has innovation as demand for our leaders in their agreement with the hospital. We provide services at regional and national levels. So what I'm going to do here is talk about different examples and show you different cases on how we use games for treating different problems with our patients. But first, I need to say a few words about why we use games. Jurriaan was talking about it earlier, but games are really fun. And I've taken a bunch of these pictures, so I don't know how well the enjoyment and pleasure is coming through the pictures, but I was there for those situations, and I can tell you there was a lot of laughter. And another reason that we use games is that a lot of the commercial video games now have motion detectors, so that we can challenge our patients to use their bodies as controllers, so that you can actually do the same tasks that you would do at the table and in traditional occupational therapy, for instance, where you move something from one side of a table to another using this movement. But instead, you can challenge them to play tennis with this movement against you as a therapist or alongside a friend, just as an example. Where do I point this? There. The first thing I'm going to talk about is to exercise balance. This is a picture of Per Tore, and the picture is from Aftenposten, where we had a story on him when we opened our virtual rehabilitation lab. And he says, "I feel my balance improves while I'm having fun." And this game, so you can see him playing tennis here. This game actually challenges him to move from one side to another because the balls come at him on different sides. So he this game really challenges his balance by moving from side to side, which is actually similar to an exercise you would do in physiotherapy, for instance. Well, moving from one side to side, weight-bearing movements, and instead of you standing there in our physiotherapy room, you do it playing video games. And he thought it was really cool, and I think so too. These two pictures are of Anne. She had some problems using her arms, and as you see here, these are two pictures taken very closely in time. So you see she can actually do the movement, but she got tired really fast, and when we did this in occupational therapy session, she got tired from maybe 3 or 4 movements with this movement. But when we playing games, because she thought it was so funny, and as she say, she pushed herself further because of the points. She could do maybe 10 times as many movements in a session that she could while doing traditional occupational therapy. And it helped that she had a really big winner's instinct, and she really hated to lose. So that pushed her even further. No? Yeah. These are two pictures of two patients of mine that is using games while exercising in upright position. They both have a spinal cord injury. It's incomplete, so they can exercise their function back. But what one of them said, I actually forget that I'm standing and therefore I can stand longer. They are both inflicted by pain, and so it's kind of the same as with Anne. She could do a lot more because the games made her forget that she was actually exercising. And Thomas here, he could actually stand, I think it was about 30 minutes while playing the games, and he couldn't even stand for 10 minutes without the game. So it's about diverting the attention away from the pain and away from the things that make him want to sit down. Which brings us over to another thing that we're looking into is how to treat pain. What do you do when the painkillers doesn't work? You can picture yourself laying in bed and having tremendous amount of pain, and the doctors come and give you drugs, but it doesn't work. That's the case for Cecilia here, and when she's in a lot of pain, she can't even talk because it's so painful and so annoying. So we've started trying out virtual reality goggles, and this is the PlayStation goggles. And when she comes into our lab, we usually ask her, "Where are you on the scale from 1 to 10 on the pain?" And she's regularly around like 5 or 6. But when she's played the virtual reality games for about 4 or 5 minutes, we ask her again, "How's the pain?" And most of the time she actually say, I don't feel any pain, or I'm low, maybe 1, 2. So it's obvious that this has an effect on Cecilia, but we don't know in which degree it will have effect on everybody else. So we're we're starting to scale up this project and trying it out on more and more patients. It's actually very, very fun. Another thing, I use Cecilia a lot because she is like, her enthusiasm is like it's coming through the camera. But another thing, when you wound up in a wheelchair, you have to exercise shifting the pressure from your seat, because you have to avoid the pressure ulcers, and you also have to work on your seating balance, because that's how you shift the pressure. And as you see, these two pictures are actually of the same game, and two different scenarios though. They're playing downhill ski, and this game challenge you to move from side to side in the wheelchair to avoid missing the gates, because if you miss a gate, you get a penalty. And the more you lean forward, the faster you go downhill. So, as we see, we use this a lot on our patients with spinal cord injury that's in a wheelchair, because as we see, they get more and more secure with themselves in the chair as they get better in this game, and it's very, very funny. The laughter and they challenge each other and hit each other, and I beat you. Next time, maybe you beat me. So it's a very good situation for our patients. They kind of forget that they have an impairment. They're competing on a level they would if they weren't in a wheelchair. And this game can also challenge a person that can stand. So you can be in a wheelchair and you can play alongside a standing person, and you will play at the same level. Yeah. This quote is from Annette, which is an occupational therapy colleague of mine. And the pictures are from our Xbox Cafe, which we have each Friday. We come together, a group from all of our units, in every ages and cultures and whatever, come together, play games, usually darts, and we eat waffles, drink coffee, and compete. And yeah, it's a very good situation for many things, because when you had a traumatic brain injury, it's not always easy to know what to say to people, or how much to share, or maybe like a common "how do you do" can maybe open up a well of feelings, and yeah, it's hard to know when to limit yourself. So this is a very nice situation to actually work on the social communication, because you can like ease into it and talk about the game. Yeah, you did a good job now, and how about them waffles? Yeah, so it's that's what we see. It's a good situation for social communication, and it's also a good exercising situation. Where am I on time? I have plenty on time. Good. When you wound up in a wheelchair, it's hard to find activities that get your heart rate going, and it's also very common that your physical function or physical capacity has decreased a lot. So it's hard to find activities that challenge your what's it called? Which challenge your energy expenditure, or get your heart rate going, to build up your physical capacity again. And we see that a fun way of doing this is actually by playing Nintendo Wii and boxing, for instance, or fencing, like Tora is doing. Because this is an activity that is very intense. You have to use both your arms at the same time, and You also have to move from side to side to dodge the different or the opponent's punches. So you use your whole body except your feet. So it's a good situation to exercise to get your heart rate going. And they have a lot of fun with it as well, which is they always do with these games. Wrong way. Neglect. I don't know. I'll just say 2 words about neglect. Neglect is when you have had a brain injury and you don't acknowledge one of your sides. And a common thing to do when treating neglect is that you're supposed to envision yourself as a lighthouse, and your head is the light, and you're supposed to scan the whole room. It's called visual scanning techniques. And we use this combined with games to treat neglect, because it's the most common thing to do is like you put on post-it notes up in different places in the room, and you're supposed to stand in the middle of the room and scan the whole room and find the different post-it notes and such. But we've actually used this as with a screen, a big screen, so that you have your patients standing in front of the screen and play this game. It's actually about washing windows. It's not, it's not the game I would choose if I were to play it at home, but a lot of it works really good with neglect, because you have to finish the whole route before you the glass before you can go to the next glass, and it gets harder and birds come pooping on it and stuff. But so it actually works very well on neglect. So you have to scan the whole glass and see. Have I washed all of it? Can I go on to the next level? And a lot of our patients actually think it's a nice way to ease into playing video games, because it's low key and it's not a lot of demanding attention span and such. I want to say 2 words about our virtual rehabilitation lab. We started the virtual rehabilitation lab in 2012, but got a new virtual rehabilitation lab this year, early this year, in the new hospital at Sunnaas. And we went from about 10, 12 square meters to about 45 square meters. So we wanted this room to have a place to take our patients and to have a place where we can be in a nice and quiet environment, play games, and to gather all our equipment, because we had a lot of equipment all around the hospital, but now we have all of our equipment gathered in this room. Alongside, when we got this room, we put together a group that were supposed to look into the research done on different games. And we also put this group together in thinking about how are we going to train our occupational therapist, how are we going to train the physiotherapist and such and so on. So we needed a group that was committed to implementing games in many of our disciplinaries, and we needed someone that had belief in the method. So it's us 3 over there peeping out, and a couple more. But we've had now maybe 40 hours with educating both physiotherapists, nurses, and occupational therapists. Our main thought about this room was that maybe if we can have one person working in this room, as this picture illustrates. That is, if you're one person in this room working there, you can have maybe 4 or 5 patients at the same time, and with that increase the intensity of the rehabilitation. Because today every patient get 1 hour physiotherapy, 1 hour occupational therapy. But if you can get 1 hour physiotherapy, 1 hour occupational therapy, and maybe 1 hour at the virtual rehabilitation lab, you have increased 1 hour. And many of our patients can do more than they get offered today. So it would be nice to have. We have a lot, but we want even more. Yeah. So that's what I had planned to say. Thank you.